when I started drawing more characters from imagination, I noticed that most of my poses were like this. And you might think, oh, that's not too bad. The problem was that every time I was trying a different pose, the torso would only go up and down. Like, I never really considered twisting until I figured out a trick to do it. So today I'm going to tell you about this trick that I use to draw twisting torsos properly every single time using boxes, and also how to connect them organically so that they don't feel like they're two completely different things. But first, the concept. So the idea of twisting implies that two surfaces that are normally facing the same direction are connected with something soft, like rubber. Because the two surfaces are basically free-floating compared to each other, the middle section has to deform when those are rotating or moving from the original position. But most people get stuck here because they don't know how to rotate things. So the first step is to be able to draw two forms rotated compared to each other. And let's start with boxes. So let's pretend we have our hips like a box. Here, actually, let's zoom in. So we have our hips in this rotation. Let's make sure they're at least acceptable. Now, my first instinct has always been to do this. Okay. Like, oh, it's even wonky. But okay, this is the torso, and I'm gonna have to move like, okay, move it around like, oh, okay, maybe if I don't like it, let's do this. Now I know how to, draw hinges. Like, as long as this goes in the same direction, it should be okay. But this is not a nice pose, right? Like I can add the legs here. Like whatever. This is okay-ish. I guess you can draw someone driving or riding a bike, maybe like Kim Jong-il does. It's not really dynamic, right? What if you want to draw something else? Well, there is a trick, and the trick is the box rotation exercise that I already talked about. I know it might be discouraging for some of you, but think about this in this other way. So instead of trying to think, oh, I want to rotate the box in a specific direction, let's start again with our pelvis. I'm using a box here. I could be using a cylinder inside. It's the same. I'm probably going to use a cylinder later. So we have our box here. Now, because I memorized basically all of the other box rotations, now I know that there are, different angles, right? I can draw at. I can reuse these. So if you have drawn the matrix, the 16 boxes matrix, this one that I talked about, then you know that it's a very useful thing to think of box rotations in specific angles, like only those specific angles and not all of the possible angles, because they're easier to remember. So we can reuse them here. Instead of doing this and trying to think, oh, how can so if I draw like an ellipse here, how do I rotate this? Well, you don't think about that. You take one of your other boxes. Let's say you take this, and then you paste it. Oh, look. This torso is twisting. It's twisting because if we consider the center line of this and the center line of this, let me actually add them to the same layer. This is rotating. Actually, let's do this. Why not? This and this are not exactly, these are very similar, but they're not exactly on the same spot. So a torso would be something like that. Now we're going to go over how to think about the middle part soon. But the first thing that you have to understand and really drill into your mind is that you need this concept. You need to be able to draw these as if they're seen from different angles. So let's try again. Let's try with another one. Let's try it like this. So this is my hips. So these are my hips. Now, what do I do with the torso? Well, I can choose anything I want. I can reuse this. Maybe I can bend it. Maybe this is the back. So maybe it's like what if the head is here? It's like looking in that direction right there. Right, this is the back of the head, this is the top. What do? Well, we have to draw a box that is looking in that direction. So, what about this? And it might be too extreme. Okay, so the human body has some constraints. The spine cannot bend indefinitely, so you might have to adjust that. But what about something like this? So if it looks like it's too much, like this one, it's probably borderline. You can just connect them. Again, as long as you think about the center line, this is not a problem. You're not drawing completely random stuff, and you're not just drawing hinges, because you can draw a hinge. It's really easy. Like, okay, this is a hinge. Let's actually make it longer. Okay, this is just bending forward, which is fine. It's totally fine, but it lacks dynamism. What if it's something like this, right? What if it's something like this that goes towards that direction? This is much more powerful as a pose, right? This might be a little long, but hopefully you get the gist of it. And then we can draw a head. And the head could also be looking at any direction. What about this? We see the back of the head there. What if it's looking that direction? So we have this twisting going on, right? The gist of it is, again, that these need to be rotated differently. And the only way you can imagine them rotated differently is if you have a clear idea of what the rotation is in the first place. So if this is a 45 degree, this is maybe a 67.5. Okay, refer to that video about rotating boxes again if you have trouble. When I made that video, I stressed that box rotations are vital when drawing anything, and it's fundamental to be able to draw bodies or whatever else. I'm not kidding. I was not kidding, and I'm not kidding now, because it is fundamental. This is more like it's a slight twist, like can be done more. So if I leave that there and I add another one that we're looking at maybe like quite literally from this angle. See how this is twisting more now? And it's really stretched. It's the same concept. See, it's twisting even more. If I can hide that somehow now. Let's see if I remove that. See look at how much it's twisting. Imagine you had the arms here and maybe someone is doing that. Right? And maybe this one is backwards here. Right, you have the arm here going in that direction. This is extremely useful, and it's basically a foolproof way. Well, I would say 90% foolproof, because obviously you have to be conscious of what you do. Again, this might still be a little too much. You will have to judge when it's finished. If it's too much, then, well, you're gonna have to make it shorter. You adjust it a little bit. But overall, I found that there is no better way to think about twisting than this. Now, to clarify how to go about that middle part, let's take our two surfaces. Consider like this is the bottom of the rib cage and this is the top of the pelvis. Let's pretend they are the same. So let's pretend they are connected with a line, a thread or something. These are like softer parts. This is like a soft wobbly connection, which is like your skin, or pretend it's like rubber. If we draw it again, or if I take this, and then the other is turned, so this is like, it's basically like this, technically. So this is like a 22.5 basically. So if I rotate this more, as if it's 45, right? Well, now the center is here. So what I have to do is connect them with a flowing line. It rarely is a C curve, so you probably want to use an S. So this is like that sort of thing. Because there is, let's pretend there is some resistance here. Pretend there is at least a little bit of volume, right? So there is some resistance, and it's not really able to do this, okay? It's not able to do that. It has some resistance, so it does that a little bit, and then tends to go back straight. And you do the same for the sides, so you connect this and this. And it's the reason why I also recommend starting with a rib cage that looks like a box and not an egg, because how the hell do you figure out how to properly rotate this? Like, you can try, but how do you tilt it up well? Like, if you don't know, like, where do you connect those points, right? How do you find them? You can't. So you think about it this way, and you can create this sort of motion. Again, they're all like S-curves. I need something like this. And you can use the same principle to twist boxes. Like, same here. Okay, when you twist the boxes, the middle part tends, again, they tend to stay where they are, so create this sort of like folding a little bit, and this, twisting, simply put. That's what's gonna give the figure a little more like anatomical solidity, I guess. And then once you have all this, you can go ahead, say if this is the front, do like this. This is probably a little more sensical. Then you can start like playing around with your inner anatomy if you have that knowledge. I made this rib cage pretty slim, but you can make it thicker to start with, or you can add volume to it like this, right? You have this sort of thing. So this still stretches like that. You make the cavity for the abdomen, and then you connect all your abs and all the stuff that's in there. Using this method also allows you to indicate some muscles. Like if you take the obliques are here. Like this is all obliques. Obviously not anatomically like a box, but this is all the oblique muscles. And you can easily indicate them with this method. Well, you would not be able to do it that easily with the bean or with an egg for the rib cage and a box for the pelvis. Now lastly, I want to cover something that's more of an FAQ. When you twist boxes, you always want to consider the material that's between the two surfaces. So again, let's pretend like there is something here. And these are not perfect, but it's fine. So pretend it's something like this. Now, always consider the material that's in here. Because when you twist, or if I twist even more, if I twist like that, and maybe even this, like I have to consider what's going on in here. So all this part, this is very extreme, I don't even know if this is possible for a human being, but all this part, this is all material that never ever goes away. So this still exists somehow. All these strands here, all these lines, they're all doing like this, all of them. Like here, there is one that goes here, one that goes here, there is a middle point here still. So all these will have to show in your twisting, and that's how you get, later you get the overlap. So when you do something like that, you have this effect, right? And then this. And if I hide those, see, that's what you get, the overlap effect. So these are, this is basically the gist of twisting torsos using boxes. And I really highly recommend you do this exercise a lot. So you take any pelvis, and yes, please notice that I also, by default, if I don't think, draw a pelvis in this rotation. You take this, and then you take any other random box, take this, again, and figure out, how do I connect these? How do I connect? Is it possible to connect them? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But you want to try them all out. Like quite literally, you try them all out. How about this? Right? You try them all out. See if it's possible to connect them in a way that looks like it's not broken. And this was wrong, by the way. It's like this. Let me clarify it. Like that. This is the middle point. Comes through here. This is like the back. Pretend it's someone that's looking in this direction. Okay, there. Towards us. Once you have this down, everything else is going to come much easier. So do this exercise. Try to figure out all of the possible rotations of the torso, and then do the same thing with the head, because the head is just another box on top. So you can apply the exact same principle and draw a random box here for the head. and then you just connect it with the muscles. But it's exactly the same thing. So, same thing, see? Default, I think, okay, I rotate it differently. I rotate it like that. So now it's looking away from us. And then I just connect the muscles. That's it. But if you had trouble following this, it means that you probably still have to learn a bit about form and drawing in 3D space. So I got you covered. I actually just released a fundamentals drawing course, of which you can find the link in the video description, and that's going to help you tremendously to figure these things out and to understand how to properly think of drawing so that you can convey a virtual space. All right, that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, because more are to come, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.